the Scicommunity Nexus Channel's Fresh Press Science.
Hi, I'm Gabi Serrato-Marx, and I am a PhD student up here at MIT.
My name is Susanna Harris. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Susanna L. Harris. And I am starting my 5th year of my PhD in microbiology down at the University of North Carolina in Chapel Hill.
We are far away, but we're still hanging out here on Fresh Press Science. Thank you for being here with us.
So I'm down in Chapel Hill, and so Gabi and I have never actually met in person, but we've probably in the last couple months racked up plenty of hours of communication, right?
Yeah, probably I don't even want to estimate. We've done lots of video calls. We're probably in the dozens of video calls at least.
Hi, this is my dog. You probably know that. But Gabi and I talk outside of these little meetings as well to talk about the Fresh Press Science project we're doing, to talk about our own science. Oh my gosh, this dog wants to make out with me. We're gonna try to do this every week where we come on and there's a live part so you can join in the discussion. Sometimes we'll have an author who's gonna be talking about their specific science. You can ask them cool questions then. If you're here live, you will not have the horrible FOMO of missing out on us doing
secret content. Yeah, right. We should call it secret content. But overall, what we're going to try to do from now on is edit the videos after we do a live stream. So it will be actually a live conversation between us and usually with an author of a paper also. But then after that is over, we are going to do some editing, clean it up a little bit so that it's a lot shorter and you don't have to sit and watch an hour-long chat with bloopers if you don't want to.
And so remember, as we're going, y'all can ask questions down in the comments. You can tweet at us, Fresh Press Sci. And as always, you can send messages to either Gabi or I. What I am learning is that the thing we're supposed to do right now is to ask you very kindly if you like this channel, if you like the Scicommunity, if you like Gabi or I, we would love if you would go ahead now and just like this video before you forget. And as you're going along, add in a comment. We're still getting used to it. If anyone out there has advice for YouTube videos, promoting content, pretty much anything. I don't need advice on microbiology from a general audience, and that's about it. For every other topic, please send all of the advice. Oh my gosh, yes, please subscribe. I have 2 dogs behind me. The one over there who's balled up is named Hermes, and the one who's here licking her foot is Athena, and they are litter mates, they're brother and sister. This week, we are going to be talking about our science, and we're going to be talking about the show in general, and hopefully y'all's questions can help us answer some things that new viewers would come on and want to ask.
Usually we do them at home with pets, so that's a great part of FPS.
There's so many people who are our friends online who are the most amazing people. My job is all about looking at different bacteria that live on the plant root and looking at how these bacteria are communicating with each other and figuring out if that affects the entire community that's living there, the plant health, soil health, that sort of stuff. I study how bacteria stick together in communities on plant roots. The reason we're studying this is that we are all probably pretty familiar that there are a lot of chemicals and things used to promote plant growth and to protect plants from pests, things like that. So anything that's protecting them from fungus or a bacterium or even like a small insect. If we lost those now, we couldn't feed everyone. But we know that sometimes those chemicals can be very dangerous to the environment. And so what some scientists are wanting to do is to create sort of a probiotic. So the same reason that you would eat yogurt to benefit your gastrointestinal health, plants don't have stomachs, they have roots. That's where they take up their nutrients. And so we're interested in looking at the bacteria and things that stick to the roots and help the plant to grow and resist different diseases.
That's so cool. I've never heard your full explanation of it. I've seen it written, but I've never heard it from you. And I feel like it's a different thing. So it's really cool to hear what you actually study and the plant probiotics. That's so freaking cool. I had no idea.
So that's what I study, is how bacteria stick together and form a sticky biofilm. The same way you can think of humans live in big groups, but they also form infrastructure. It's not like you go to a city and everyone's just standing around and sleeps where they're laying. We build buildings and things. And so the entire city, when you say city, it includes the building, the people, all of the different resources that the people use. It's the same thing as saying biofilm. So a biofilm means the bacteria living within this big matrix, and that matrix is called biofilm as well. That sticky adhesive biofilm is what holds the bacteria all together and allows them to have these really complex behaviors.
I don't think biofilm is something you can agree with, by the way. I heard you say, she said biofilm, and I agree. I love that, but I don't think you can agree with biofilm. I just had to call you out on that.
I am in favor of a naturally occurring process. Also, fire is a yes.
I'm a geologist. I am a grad student here at MIT, and I study past climate change using cave rocks. So I go to caves that are all over the place. My main project is in Northeast Mexico, and we use cave monitoring, like testing what the waters have in them and how they form stalagmites, and then actually sampling stalagmites sometimes. And we look at whether in the past it was wet or dry, how often there were droughts versus wet periods, and what drives those processes. So we want to know about that because we're still figuring out in a lot of places how climate change will impact weather patterns and how the wet or dry cycles will change. And to understand those things, we really need the background of how it changed in the past. So I'm really interested in the climate of the past 2,000 years, especially because I'm interested in human climate interactions. I'm working right now on some stalagmites from Northeast Mexico in San Luis Potosí and Tamaulipas, which are kind of north central. And one area is really dry and one area is a lot wetter. So I'm really excited to see what we get. So far I have no results, just some dates of how old the stalagmites are.
So that is data already. You're like, we only know how old they are. I think I would just look at a stalagmite and be like, it's pretty old.
Yeah, that's true. There's no way to tell how old they are without doing chemical dating on them.
This is a new field to me. When you said you were
Okay, that's so rude. You're the only plant root lady I know, so whatever.
Exactly. Do you do field work often?
Okay, I do it sometimes. I'm not very good at it. I often fall and get a little bit hurt. I can show you some of my scars. I think you could see my hand scar. This was like a deep cut. I probably should have gotten stitches for. But anyway, yes, I do field work pretty much once a year. And I kind of like caves medium. Like, I'm not someone who loves going caving all the time. And I also don't hate it. I sort of tolerate it. And I'm learning to like it as I get more used to it.
Jill of many trades and mistress of none.
I love that.
You pronounced the names in Mexico, I think, very accurately. And do you speak Spanish?
Yeah, I'm fluent in Spanish. I was totally bilingual, like native speaker of both until I was 5. And then we stopped speaking Spanish in my house. So I lost my Spanish until I was in like 6th, 7th, 8th grade. And I started learning it again. And now I'm back to fluent. So I say I'm not a native Spanish speaker because I had to sort of relearn it. My mom is Mexican and my dad is American. So I used to say I'm half Mexican, but now I say I'm Mexican American with a hyphen because I believe that you're not half anything. You just have a lot of different identities and it all comes into one person.
Like when I first saw you, I certainly would not have thought that at all. What has it been like? Because you have the option of passing in a system that really favors being just white.
So I have all of the white privilege. I can look completely white and choose not to tell anyone anything else. And then similarly, I'm also part of the queer community, and that's something that I can choose to tell people or not. And then I also have an invisible physical disability. So there's a lot of things about me that I like that are important to me that I kind of hold close to myself, and they're part of my identity, but you can't necessarily see them. So that's something that I think about a lot with science and science communication and representation, because I do want to try to be representation for people with disabilities in science and show that it is possible to still carve out a place that you can be successful and things along those lines. Because when I was first starting out in grad school, I felt like there was nobody like me. And now that I have a lot more community on Instagram and Twitter, and I call them all my internet friends, like you, Susanna, I feel a lot less alone. And so I kind of want to be able to do that for other people and make connections with people who have similar experiences. My dad doesn't speak Spanish, and my brother was born when I was 4, and my dad got really frustrated that we could all speak Spanish and he couldn't. And so to kind of maintain family harmony, we switched to English only. But there were still some words as a kid that I didn't know the English word for. So like I still forget the thing you use when you're cooking, pinzas, tongs. I still forget every time. Forget the word for tongs. There's some interesting like bilingual stuff, even though we stopped. So if you are born in the US and maybe you don't speak Spanish because your parents wanted you to have exclusively an American accent and they didn't want you to have an accent like you speak Spanish because they had trouble with that. Things along those lines. Like there's tons of reasons why people don't speak Spanish. But for me, it is an important part of it because it's always been important to my family that I pronounce Spanish words correctly, appropriately, to not have a really thick American accent or English accent when I'm speaking Spanish. So that was part of it for me. And also just that I can communicate with my family who are still in Mexico. That way we can have a deeper connection, I think. So for me, it was a big part of forming my Mexican American identity and figuring out who I am, even if I blend, as it were. I want to hear all about your like PH depression and your cool side stuff too.
I myself manage clinical depression. It's something that I have a family history of, as a lot of people do in academia. And I didn't realize how normal it really was until this big study came out in Nature Biotech back in March that found of about 2,000 online respondents, approximately 40% would be identified as clinically depressed or having a general anxiety disorder. The way they found this was that they actually had the participants respond to the same questions as you would in a doctor's office. And so that 40% number, I heard, it made me feel kind of better because if you haven't seen it already, there's a video of me talking about my history of mental health. It can be a bit triggering. And so if people are upset, I would urge you not to watch it. I don't think, if it would be upsetting, there's no need. But I talk about my history of mental health and the feelings of isolation associated with it. And when I saw this 40% statistic, I really thought that seems about right. But then also, if I looked around a room of 200 people, there's no way I would think that 80 of them might be suffering from the same sort of problems. That's really where PH depression was born. The next step is that I shared a little bit about my story. I got other people to share. Started back in March of this year, March 2018. So we're coming right up on our 5-month Luniversary, and we're getting close to 4,500 followers on Instagram. That's where it started. We're on Twitter now.
That's amazing.
Thank you. It really felt good. My biggest fear was that I would go into campus and like nobody would want to talk to me, because sometimes there's definitely still a huge stigma around mental illness, even though there's so many of us. And that's really where I want PH depression to be, is to just kind of talk about mental illness, talk about everything. It's called PH depression, but it is from anxiety to depression to borderline personality disorder, alcoholism, other substance abuse, PTSD, ADHD. There's so many different things that so many people feel ashamed of. And I think in reality, everyone has something that they are struggling against. And as an exceptionally privileged person, I'm a cisgendered white woman. I am also in the queer community, but I'm bisexual, and of all the people in the queer community, I think a bisexual woman is the most accepted. I'm in a very secure place. University of North Carolina is amazing and incredibly supportive, and it was still very hard to deal with these things. My pie in the sky idea would be to create a crowdsourced Wikipedia-esque page, basically a big grid that's searchable by university. And any university that does research and has graduate students, that you could search for that. And we basically have like 10 metrics that it would be graded on, and we could give them a grade. if they have all these different pieces and have links to their website. So it might be, do they have a free counseling service? Do they have an operated website? Do they take all these different kinds of medical insurance? Things like that. And one that would be a great resource for our members to be able to, if I'm struggling, I'm at the University of North Carolina, I can type that into this like big page, pull it up and see what they have. But really what could be cool with this is that maybe we could start putting pressure on institutions, because these kinds of changes, the support needs to start coming from the top down. I think there's a really cool grass movements thing happening right now, but I think that institutions, the grant fulfillment places, NIH, NSF, they need to be the ones telling institutions as well that you can't work your people into the ground, and actually supporting mental health is going to make people more productive.
It's true that that's something that doesn't exist anywhere. Like, a rate my professors for mental health care just doesn't exist. Definitely not for university systems. And even like for regular doctors outside of the university, it's so hard to find out who's good.
I don't know. I don't know much about it, but I think we'd need a bioinformaticist. We'd need someone to host, and we need people who know how to run this stuff. But with this big of a community, and by the way, the people in this community are the best humans around, because they are in academia. So they're super motivated, and they have some kind of emotional understanding of themselves. They've had to face a couple demons, and they're so willing to help others. They've been really amazing. So it's been a lovely social experiment. It's taking off faster than I would have ever imagined.
I think it's been really cool how inclusive you've been of all kinds of mental health struggles, and it's been a place where I can both feel community and learn from people who are struggling with something really different from what I go through. And so I found that to be like, it's a huge benefit of just following the PH Depression Instagram page, is that I get a lot out of it from just one place. So I think what you're doing is really cool. We wanted to have a chance where we could talk about interesting science and interesting topics from a non-expert perspective. So we kind of shifted that from generally interesting topics to reading slightly difficult to understand because it's not in our field, brand new research, and talking to the authors so that we could figure out exactly what we're supposed to get out of the paper and get kind of the background on how they do the research.
We're both trained researchers and science communicators, and one of the misconceptions is that if you're a scientist, you can read all science. That's misconception number one. We are learning every single week that is not true. The second one is really that if the media wants to know what we're doing, they should read our papers. And that goes back to the first point of, I'm really good at reading microbiology papers because I'm coming up on like 9 years of doing that, including undergrad where I worked in a lab. Last week when we talked about proteins, which were in bacteria, both of us had no idea what was going on. When I was editing that video, it was amazing. I was like, nope, not that. This is wrong. We started this because we wanted to highlight that disconnect. We want to kind of push scientists to actually reach out to the media and try to explain their stuff. I think sometimes it gets picked up and mishandled by the media, and even probably for good intent. A lot of people really want to understand the science, and it's up to us as scientists to make it accessible.
Yeah, and I should add that we're not like trying to hate on science writers or say that like the media does it all wrong. Like, both of us write public facing science content, so we know that it's really challenging. But I think it's more, the point is to show everyone that even scientists who are trained at research, trained to read papers quickly and thoroughly at the same time, even we really, really struggle with stuff. So it's been so interesting to learn about these different topics. Biostats with Rebecca was a whole new world. And she taught me so many things about antibiotics.
The other thing that I think a lot of the general public doesn't know is that you can totally email scientists. I think a great way to do that is online. You can go and tweet at them if they're small enough. But usually if you have a question about their science, find that first author in the paper and send them an email, because that is the person who's going to be really excited to get back to you. They're going to be able to explain stuff.
And you can also ask them for a PDF of the paper. If you don't have access to the full text versions, you can email them and say, like, from your abstract that I could get access to, I have these questions, but I would love to read your full paper. So if you could send it to me, then I'll probably have more questions. And then you can build kind of a relationship with that scientist. And a lot of times, well, I guess it really depends on the field, but sometimes the first author of the paper will be a student. They'll be a trainee, either a postdoc maybe, or a grad student of some sort. So they're people who are still really excited and want to talk to brand new people.
We're not really getting outside of our echo chamber, to be honest, right now. We would love with help doing that. Right now, we're kind of just getting out of our silos. Microbiologists and paleoclimatologists don't hang out and talk science. I mean, I think your stuff is super cool. And oftentimes, like, non-experts have the best questions.
Yeah, they have hard questions too. Make you really think about the research you're doing. And I love your tiny plant roots. Every time you post a picture of, I know that's like not really the point, is like the tiny seedlings are just the vessel for everything else, but I love those tiny things. I'm like, yeah, grow some bacteria. I like really want to root for them.
Aha, pun. If anyone has ideas of how to get this out to a more general audience, please go ahead and like, subscribe, comment. That will help us spread. Post something on your Facebook, post something on your Instagram. Like, man, people post pictures of their toast, including me. I have done the toast picture. So if you can do a toast picture, you can do one story that is talking about how important science communication is.
But it also means so much to me, and I think probably to you too, when people either that we know or that we don't know say, like, I like what you're doing, please keep doing it, or like, this is something that I wish you could do better or differently. And that's so helpful to hear. So if there's something that you think we could be doing differently, please tell us, because we're really excited about making this a better way to talk about science. We both have been to ComSciCon events, and it's a special conference where they train you to be a science communicator. Both have research skills and communication skills, which has been extremely helpful for me. The most important thing that they teach you that you can apply to everything in your life is that whatever you have to say is important, and your opinion and your, I guess not just opinion, but your expert analysis of stuff does matter, and it is important. And no matter what it is that you're an expert in, like if you're an expert in wood grains and like how different woods should be used for tree houses, like I want to hear about that. I'm really excited to hear about what people love and are really passionate about. And I think science communication is a cool way to get scientists to talk about those things that really matter to them.
If you ask someone if they like science, they might say no. If you ask someone, have you ever liked a tree house? They'll probably say yeah, or no, because I fell out of one, and you still want to talk about that. I think too often science is separated from the world, whereas scientists in general see science everywhere, and being able to communicate that science is not a textbook. It's a pair of sunglasses that you put over your eyes, and suddenly things make a little more sense, or they're more predictable, or you can find answers where you otherwise couldn't. And we could talk to people who already have a YouTube presence and get some other side communicators on here. I think that'd be awesome. Whether or not anyone would give us the time of day, I don't know. I think what we're going to try to do is do 2 weeks in a row that are paper-based. So we're going to talk about a topic. We're going to talk about the scientific paper that's related to that. And then maybe we'll do a week of maybe potpourri of whatever we want to talk about. Not the smelly stuff. We'll talk about science communication or education or ethics or whatever else.
Hashtag collab.
I have so many science shirts. This one is the science of food and drink, which is combining my two favorite things in the entire world, food and science.
Food and science. I was gonna say food and drink.
I love food. I love drink. I do science.
I have my astronaut shirt on, which goes to support the thing that Emily Calandrelli does, the like space camp for girls type thing. So these are women astronauts, so we both are very on theme.
The only one I know is Sally Ride.
Mae Jemison, who I believe was the first Black woman in space. Tereshkova was the first woman overall. She was Russian. And Ansari is Iranian. They're ladies.
I fangirl so hard when we talk to anyone. Well, what do you want to do with the rest of your life?
Crickets. I would like to do full-time science plus communication. And I think currently my ideal job title would be something like digital content producer, where I get to do a mix of writing and like scripting for videos and working with a big team of people to make awesome science content.
I kind of like the idea of getting into a job that's on the business side of science. I think it would be cool to work for a company working between their scientists and their business and marketing groups. So running science communication programs, a lot of different chemical companies now really want to have an outreach component to educate their own scientists to be able to represent the community. I love kids, but talking to adults is actually my favorite because they're so much more difficult. Kids are like sponges. You throw 10 facts at them and they'll remember 4. You tell an adult one thing and they are going to give you 5 reasons why you're wrong. And the best thing you can have out of an interaction with an adult is for them to leave questioning. If they walk away from you and they look up something that you have given them a resource to, you have absolutely won them over in terms of science communication. If you have any further questions, feel free to send us messages. Let us know if you or anyone else has a paper that you've been on. So that could be anytime in the last like 5-ish years is preferred, 10 years is okay. We'll spin it around something that is important today in the news media and we'll have you come on. You can be the 18th author, that's fine. We just want to talk to you. It's not going to be related to what we do, and so the questions will be really basic. Let us know if you have that. Again, you can find me on both Twitter and Instagram, and from there you can navigate over to see my other projects on PH Depression, as well as where Gabi and I both met, which is the Scicommunity. Please follow them if you're not.
And you can find me as at G Serrato Marks. Find the links down below. Follow the Scicommunity, support what they're doing. It's a really cool crew.
Thank you to everyone who showed up. We know this is a
Yeah, thank you. Tell us your topics and we will discuss.
If you're jazzed about chocolate and you want us to talk about the science of chocolate, we'll find somebody to talk about science of chocolate and we will stuff our faces the whole time. I love all you guys. Y'all are amazing. Okay, so
look at my plant before we end.
It's so pretty.
This is my ZZ plant. What kind of things do you think the roots have?
Well, the bacteria that predominate on roots in general occur in 4 major clades, which are proteobacteria, firmicutes, actinobacteria, and Bacteroidetes.
Bacteroidetes? I hope that's what I have.
I'm sure that you do. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for coming on. I'm Susanna L. Harris. Thanks for showing up at the Scicommunity and checking out our Nexus YouTube channel.
Bye, everyone. Whoops.